The Return of the King from the Lord of the Rings trilogies. Tonight on the Reedsters Lounge. Stay right here. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of the Reedsters Lounge. I'm the Reedster. This is the Blondie.
Hello.
And tonight we're going to cover the last of the 3 Lord of the Rings trilogies. We're going to talk about Return of the King. And let's just get right into it. It starts off with showing the whole world the events of how Smeagol actually came about the ring. It surprised me because up to this point I thought it was Smeagol who grabbed it, but apparently it wasn't.
No, actually, it was his buddy that he was fishing with. He seen it first, dives down, gets it, and Smeagol likes it and takes it from him.
Now we're getting to the point where our heroes have made it to Isengard to check up on what's going on with Saruman, the evil white wizard. And things happen. Forked Tongue has a moment of nobility and does in our evil wizard. And he plunges to his demise. And then the story's about to move on. But that's a really good sticking point. When Gandalf met his demise, he had clearly said that he was sent back until his task was done. I wonder if Saruman's kind of sort of facing the same thing. I wonder if he's sent to that often mystical place, but they're like, you've been a very naughty wizard and you are now going to pay.
Maybe a wizard's prison. Maybe they put him in like a type of wizard's prison.
I smell a spin-off. If he's not gone, he's had many great moments leading up to this time where he was actually either under Sauron's spell or he was actually twisted all along. And just what I've seen in the movies, just leading to believe that he was under Sauron's spell. That's now whether he was or not, I don't know.
Sauron's, yeah. Well, that's only because of him looking into that seeing stone that Pippin spots in the distance as they're about to be heading out, and Gandalf takes it from him. Because Gandalf knows the power of the seeing stones, and that apparently the corrupted due to not being accounted for, and that apparently put a heck of a spell on Pippin because he had to see it later that night in Rohan.
Talks Frodo into going into the cave where we know the spider to be. Now,
Shelob.
We know the name later to be Shelob.
Yeah. But
at the time we didn't. We just knew it was we just knew that there was a terrible monster inside that was going to kill Frodo.
Right.
But he goes in there anyway. The only thing of note that I have for that is, in hindsight of The Hobbit, we know that when Bilbo puts on his ring, he's able to understand what the spiders are saying. Just on a side note, wouldn't it have been kind of interesting if Frodo was scared and he puts on the ring because he knows he turns invisible? I don't think she would have had the ability to see him. And we might have gotten a little glimpse into what her way of thinking was at the time. What kind of things was she hollering? Like, where are you at, you little whatever you are?
Yeah. Well, he had said, while still being captured by Faramir and his men, when Sam told him to put it on, he said he couldn't because the ring has already taken over
I know.
him,
that would have gave away his location.
Yeah.
But just to have that moment of Shelob saying something, leave that to the writers, something very neat and unforgettable. They could have easily have either just ignored that fact just so we could have that moment, or they could have possibly have come up with something else to allow that to happen, and Frodo was still able to throw off the scent of, I don't know. But I guess it wouldn't have happened. It just would have gave his position away, and it would have been sworn by orcs or Nazgul.
But it was still pretty sad, though, when Sam, or not Sam, but Frodo made Sam leave. He said to go home. Poor Sam sitting there crying. That was pretty sad. And Sam, he should be the hero of the story anyhow. I mean, Frodo wouldn't have made it anywhere near where he got without Sam.
I agree.
So he in my eyes, Sam's the hero.
Okay, so then when all that's going on, then they break through Ministerios Gate, and then Mordor's army breaks through Ministerios Gate for the first time with just that headpiece that they were using to ram through. And Gandalf says, no matter what comes through that gate,
hold your position.
You are soldiers of Gondor. You will stand your ground.
Yeah.
And then the second thrust through blasts open the doors, and all of these armored trolls come running, screaming with big club mace-like things, swinging them back and forth. I'm all about death and glory, but I'd have ran.
Yeah.
I ran right for the wizard.
They had, going back to Fellowship of the Ring, they had a heck of a time with the cave troll in Moria. And that was with Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Gandalf, Boromir, and the four hobbits. And then all these trolls come rushing in. They're Gondor. And they had such a hard time with one, so, what are they supposed to do? And they lacked all the talent, so, a lot of the talent, so. It was just Gandalf and the Gondor men, so. To me, they would have, been slaughtered.
And now, before we go any further, I would like to add something that's like always on the back of my mind when I'm watching these fight scenes, and that is, I would have personally have liked to have seen, at least at this point, when those trolls first come crashing through that gate, some of the more higher elite guards that are up above would come rushing in there, and then you see a little bit more of a well-organized melee attack, almost rivaling elven-like attacks, because they're the elite of the best. Not to say that they wouldn't have sadly succumbed to the onslaught, but they would have put up a heck of a fight just for a moment to heighten the scene, to give you a sense of, well, this isn't going to be one-sided. Look at these guys go. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, and it won't happen. But I would have liked to have seen it, because I think it would have added more to it. But then I get that luxury of it being so many years done now, and I get to think about it and see it over and over. I can't help but to watch that scene and just think how great it would have been if some more highly trained men, not anything else, just regular men coming in with some really gnarly battle skills and just start hacking up everything. But then they ultimately get subdued just by the sheer numbers of it all.
You know what I would have liked to see? Where at Helms Deep, the elves showed up to help. I would have liked to seen the dwarves show up to help at, Minas Tirith. I think that would have been really cool. Oh, like the Ironfoot dwarves coming in.
I agree. I have thoughts about that too, about the end scenes of the actual battle things that I'll go ahead and throw in there later. But I was thinking right along those same lines, but later on, save the mystery forces to join in later. Takes us over to where Frodo gets tricked by the spider Shelob and gets the stinger to the gut.
Right.
And again, that's another opening for, at the time, I believed he was dead.
I thought so myself.
And I thought Sam's been so strong about everything up to this point. I think they're actually going to have him take it all the way in Frodo's name. And he was going to let Frodo take all the credit, even though he's been, from this point forward, not even in the story. He wasn't going to reveal that to nobody. I thought, wow, he's going to take it the rest of the way and go back and tell everybody, yeah, Frodo was such a hero and so strong up to the end, and Gollum showed up and he just grabbed the hold of Gollum and just plunged into the lava, and that's why he's not here no more. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Well, I didn't think that. I just thought, he was going to end up taking it the rest of the way. So he would have gotten partial credit for being a hero.
And then, of course, Sam arrives and has the battle with Shelob. And it was that was a cool thing to see.
Oh, that was, I really enjoyed that. Well, I thought it was really cool how he took that vial in one hand and I think it was Sting in the other, and he'd hold up the vial and hit with a knife. Get knocked on his butt a few times.
Yeah, it was a very cool fight. And
he did well. As a hobbit, he did very well against a huge spider.
Yeah, because the hobbits had no formal fighting training.
No. And he's just a gardener, so...
Awesome, and that just adds to the awesomeness of Sam. Okay, so after Sam wards off Shelob, and at which time, like I said, I thought he was dead. It turns out that some orc show up and explain to the viewing audience that he was in fact alive, that he was only tranquilized from the venom. And that was a sigh of relief for me. But at that time, what was going on back in Gondor was they were finally sent to the second level, retreating to the second level. And now, while watching it for the first time, I was caught up in the hype and drama. But now, all these years later, as I'm still watching it, Gandalf was hollering, get the women and children to safety. And he's right. As you're watching the orcs take over the first level and everyone starts running to the second, there are quite a few women that I could see that are making their way, horrified, to the second level. And my only question now is, why weren't they there to begin with? I mean, seriously, were they that arrogant to think that they could hang out down below and everything would be fine and we stand a chance?
Yeah.
That our forces will hold Mordor at bay?
Yeah, they had plenty of time to, after Gandalf and Pippin arrived, to get the women and children somewhere.
Let us revisit the two towers, and it didn't take the Rohan people long to get all their women and children into the back cave.
Yeah.
And that was, a smaller engagement of forces.
Yeah.
Here you have...
Elijah. Much larger.
Yeah, so I couldn't...
And they should have had dungeons then, too.
Were they
it was a castle, it was medieval times. Where was the dungeons? That's where the women and children should have went, right?
Well, no, it makes sense that they'd been on the upper levels. As your first line of defense fails, you move up to your second. So I understand all that. I'm just curious as to why those women were still there. What were they doing? Possibly tending the wounded.
No, they could have been nurses, doctors.
Okay, now at this point, 3 days have gone by because the Rohirrim arrives, because you hear the horn sounding, and then the theatrical version, that is all you got, which was plenty at the time. But I really did appreciate the extended version scene of this, because just before the Rohan forces show up, Gandalf and Pippin are making their way to the second level when the Witch King finds them.
Yeah.
And the Witch King, to shock and horror on my behalf anyway, it looks like he's ready to do in Gandalf.
And he did tell the orc, the guy with the crippled arm orc, that he'd break the wizard.
And so in the extended scene, the Witch King shows up, and using whatever magical force he has, he actually explodes Gandalf's staff.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I like that.
And it wasn't until the Rohirrim's horn sounded that got the Witch King's attention, and he left.
Yeah.
But Gandalf was left in a cowering position, fearful, and it looked to me anyway like Gandalf was about to meet his end to the Witch King.
Apparently that Witch King was pretty powerful.
I agree, and that really surprised me. And so why do I bring this up whenever I had said in earlier installments of talking about this trilogy we wanted to stick to theatrical, is because later on down the line in the theatrical release, of course the Witch King takes a liking to the King of Rohan in the middle of all that battling, and it was Eowyn who sticks around to defend the fallen king and ultimately kills the Witch King.
Right.
All I'm saying about this continuity thing is, because I don't pretend to understand the lore, all I know is what I'm watching. And Gandalf the White is an upgraded Gandalf to begin with. And Gandalf could not...
Well, that's because she wasn't a man. No man can kill the Witch King. It had to have been a female.
Okay, but Gandalf wasn't trying to kill him. He was only trying to defend himself. And the Witch King was going to kill him.
Yeah, but it was not really much of a fight between Eowyn and the Witch King, was it? He was just throwing around that ball and chain thingy, and he even hit her, broke her shield, crippled her arm, and
smashed her arm. So it looked like he was going to kill her too, and it wouldn't have been for Mary sticking him in the back and giving her that moment of pause to do something.
I think she would have been a goner too, just like the king.
All I'm trying to say is, she stabs him in the face, dead.
Yeah.
Where was his magical power that he used against Gandalf?
I guess apparently he thought, oh, this weakling, Gandalf, much more powerful, so he probably had to bring out more powers. Probably didn't think that he needed that much powers against, someone from Rohan.
Now, that was just an observation that I made. Not that it took away any from the story. This observation was just because I got to watch this movie over and over again over the years. The Rohirrim do their attack and are mostly successful. And whenever the King of Rohan said, make safe the city, because they pretty much had the ground forces under control, that's when we hear yet another horn. And then everyone looks off to the distance, and from the Mordor side, the elephants in that grand row start their infamous march to the battlefield.
That was, I think, one of my favorite parts of that battle. Yeah,
that was like, okay, well, what's this? It's like, oh, this is not going to be good.
But I thought it was real cheesy how Eowyn has Mary take the reins of the horse, and she just takes down that elephant with just 2 strikes, 4 strikes. 2 on the back legs and 2 in the front, and down goes the elephant. After how many arrows and stuff's in it? I don't think that her swords could have pierced his skin like that. I thought that was pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, they got real
just
thick.
Miraculously got those tendons just right.
Yeah, or something. Because they should have real thick, like unpierceable hides. I would think.
I don't understand why they were on the side of Mordor. Because they were man, and Mordor was doing this battle because they were going to inherit the earth after they rid themselves of man. So I kind of wonder, what were these people told and promised to be on the side of Mordor, and why would Mordor even cut a deal with them? I mean, at the time, I was just all up and ooh and ah. But now, I can't help but to wonder every time I watch, is like, what are they even thinking?
Or maybe, they owed a debt to Sauron.
But we're talking about the end of man as we know it, which means, at best, they could have been hoped to be slaves, but they would have been treated awfully. It isn't like they've been given their own little corner of the world to live happily ever after.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Which brings me to another wonder. Those men, back when Gollum first led Frodo and Sam to the gates of Mordor, and then they realized it was a bad idea, so we'll take the back door route. There was man marching through the gates of Mordor, and then never to be seen again. They weren't in the last fighting scenes.
Well,
Where'd those people go?
I'm sure there was more than just Minas Tirith under attack, though, in Middle-earth. I'm sure that, them forces of Mordor were spread out all over Middle-earth, attacking different regions.
I have another theory. They realized they weren't stupid. They realized that while they were in there, they were being treated horribly. And they're like, we're obviously on the wrong side. Kill them all. And there was a big fight in there. They lost, obviously, but that's the way I see it. They did the honorable thing by the end, and or else the whole fight would have started a day sooner.
That's one way to look at it.
The orcs had to recover a day because of the damage done by that force they let in earlier. Well, at this point, after we get into that elephant battle, then that's when the sea ships arrive, and Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli bail out. That's what happens. And we see that apparently the undead took Aragorn's offer, because then they come gushing out of there.
Right. And the orcs said, let's go see rats.
Well, that's because they were expecting even more corrupted men.
So whatever happened to those men that were on the boat? Did the dead people kill them to take over the boats?
That's the way I took it, yeah. That's why Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas were there, because the undead took them out and they hopped on the boats. And
I expected more from the dead people. I didn't expect them to just go through there and just pretty much demolish everything in sight and be over that quick. I expected way more of a fight.
When I watched it for the first time, I thought the movie was over.
Yeah, the dead people were just gonna kill everything.
Everything. I mean, everything bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think they'd stop short at Minas Tirith.
I didn't either. Gimli had the right idea. They needed them to stick by themselves, especially going into Mordor.
That's where I would have sent them. I mean, what's it to them? I mean,
they're dead. Nothing's going to affect them anyhow.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose.
Who says how long does it take to have the debt, paid, right?
And if we want to have fun with that, what would those undead do once they wiped out everyone in Mordor and there's that eye at the top of that tower? I mean, would they have been able to do anything with that, or that just would have been a stalemate thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Because, essentially he's a necromancer, so.
That would have been interesting. But yeah, I agree. I thought the movie was over. I'm like,
yeah.
Wow, they're just going to wipe out everything. It's just going to be smooth sailings for Frodo and Sam at that point, unless there's more to the story with Frodo and Sam that I was not made aware of yet. What's going to happen next. But to my surprise, they stopped short of Mordor, and then they weren't released. And the only one who seemed to think that it was a bad idea was Gimli.
Yeah.
But Gimli didn't say, well, let's finish the forces in Mordor and then send them.
Well, at this point, they didn't even know they were going to Mordor until they had that next meeting there at Gondor.
And I would agree, But then when we get to that meeting, everyone seemed to be convinced that there was still a huge standing army inside. So that leads me to believe that they did know at that point there was still a big army in there.
Right.
And they knew Frodo was in there.
But they didn't come up to the determination of, hey, we'll do the diversion until that meeting. To get, the eye off of, and all the orcs' attention from Frodo and Sam. That's when they decided to go to the Black Gate and call him out and have that big fight. And that was after he released the dead. But yeah, maybe he should have been like, nope, not yet. You're doing well on paying your debt, but, your time service has not ended not yet.
Yeah, at least go have a look, guys. What's it going to hurt?
That would have been a real quick battle.
And then, if the Undead King would have had a problem with that, he could have said, well, look, go have a look. Whether there's something there or not, if there's something there, eliminate it for us. If there's nothing there, come back and tell us. Or go with them, and if there's nothing there, then we will release you. And if we don't, then just start killing us too, because we're not keeping our word. But Aragorn would have kept his word. So,
yeah.
But that's all in hindsight. We get to look at it over and over and over again. But at the time, I was caught up in the hoopla. After that wonderful scene, we get to where Frodo's captured in the tower, and Sam's trying to go get him. And fortunate for Sam, which is why I bring it up, is another scene that I fell in love with was when the Uruk-hai and the orcs start fighting amongst themselves. I thought that was really cool and intense, and it showed their insanity as far as there was no structure. There was a lot of hate just between those two groups, much less trying to do the will of Sauron.
Yeah, how they were killing each other.
Yeah, they were just tearing into each other, and it didn't take much to
set them off
for sides to form.
Yeah, they could have just been fighting each other the whole time. Eliminated them all right there.
So then that takes us to where Frodo and Sam couldn't get across to the volcano because there was just too many forces left in Mordor. And Aragorn decides to do a diversion tactic, take the last remaining of forces that he had. And they marched up to the gate, and then the gate doors open, and the huge army still left inside Mordor starts coming out and surrounds them. Now, well, we all know this, but the reason why I bring it up because it leads me to another memorable moment and a what-if moment. The memorable moment is the way it was done, and will forever be. If I don't know if you've noticed, but everyone that was there didn't have any arrows. There was no arrows flying two directions. That would have made quick for a lot of death on either side.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Me neither until a long time removed. I was watching. I'm like, one way or the other, this would have gone pretty quickly if they just would have started shooting arrows. If it was the good guy shooting a bad shooting a good, this would have been real quick.
And did Legolas use any of his arrows?
Not that I could tell.
Because previously, in the first two movies, he was quick to be pulling out them arrows, even close range style.
But even if he had or hadn't, there apparently was no other man forces there with them because there wasn't arrows flying. And apparently, the fighting force out of Mordor, none of them had arrows either. All I'm saying is in hindsight, I am surprised with the finished product that there was no arrows flying. And now, a what-if moment that I think would have made it more special is when they were surrounded by Mordor's forces. All right, at this point, I feel that man has already proven twice now, once at Helms Deep and now here at Minas Tirith, that their courage, their strength, their honor has been preserved. And now all they're doing is a selfless sacrifice in hopes that Frodo can destroy the ring, but they're all going to die.
Yeah.
So it's almost a sad moment. So I think, to raise our spirits, what we got were the eagles, which was nice.
Right.
To help the last fighting force of man. But I think it would have been even more incredible if another standing army came to help man and was starting to even the odds. Now, I can only speculate what would have made me feel great, but I just know another substantial force, whether it be elves, but that's the easy go-to, since we got some elephant action people. Why not send in the dwarves? I think that would have been almost tear-dropping to see, the fighting force of the dwarven army, showing their might by coming in and helping out.
Right, that's what I mean. If the dwarves would have been, come and helped out in Minas Tirith, and then, stayed there after the battle and went with them to Gondor.
Well,
I think it would have made Gimli proud. He'd been with his people.
That would have been awesome to see, but I think it also would have been great if things would have unfolded the way they did, to give everyone the appreciation of what man was sacrificing in this battle. But we did get help. We got the undead army that made that all better.
Yeah.
But then, the last remnants of man going to the gates of Mordor, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves there. Then the eagles come flying in, and then another army, say the dwarves or another force that I'm not even aware of, came in and helped even out the odds. Not saying they would have won, but they would have made it more believable that the group that originally was there was able to hang with the incredible amount of forces coming out of Mordor. Wow, Frodo went to go do his thing. I think that just would have made it even better by a lot.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have expected it. There was no pretense for them to be there, other than if the elves would have came. Okay, and then I guess we could wrap this up by saying that Frodo was successful. Well,
actually, Sam was successful.
Sam was successful?
Or should I say Gollum was successful. Because he bit the ring off of Frodo's... he bit Frodo's finger off. Got the ring, got so excited. It didn't take Frodo much to push him down into the lava, where he about went in himself, clung with one hand, was going to let go. Sam talked him out of it. So I'd say Frodo really didn't have a part in destroying the ring. It was Gollum and Sam. They're the ones that needed to have the credit, not Frodo. Even though he got full credit.
I wonder if Elrond or Galadriel knew that was going to happen.
I think Galadriel did.
Kind of makes me wonder, because they seem to know everything else. I wonder if Gandalf knew. He seems to know everything. So, at this point, I wonder why he even made that statement a while back ago about, they're out of my sight now.
Because I don't think he could see past the forces in Mordor.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And as for Galadriel, she said she could see the future, but things change. It changes.
So, the Ring of Power is destroyed. Thus begins what a lot of people at the time were complaining about, a elongated ending. That they felt that Peter Jackson was just taking a little too long to wrap this thing up. I don't necessarily agree, because there was it wasn't like there was really much wasted with all these endings, and ultimately it was all leading up to everybody that was hopping on the boat with the elves to go to the
Undying Lands.
Wherever the heck they were going. But the thing I take away from all that, regardless of how we might feel about the long ending, is Frodo telling Sam that these last pages are for you, in that book that Bilbo had started. So I am, to this day, expecting another movie.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think Sam should have an adventure of his own, Or if not Sam, one of his kids. Because you know that he has a son and a daughter from the ending. So, you know.
I don't know what the stakes would be. Because the Ring of Power is gone, so... But it would have to be significant enough to draw all of our interest in. I mean, we could care less if they wasted this on, say... They
or maybe a dragon's back.
What I mean is what if they wasted on... they're making the final installation of this, the real final installment, and it's over Sam's crops not coming in that season. My God, everyone's going to starve. I hope they don't do that. I hope it goes for... what could they put in there substantial? You say a dragon? What dragon? You know, they can't pull nothing out of the thin air and invent something that just doesn't feel like it even belongs there. And I know, I'm aware of the notes of Tolkien. I just don't know. I don't know if that was a story that he intended to carry on with, or if he always intended it to end there. He just never got a chance to finish. I don't know. But I am waiting for not a previous, because we're getting those now. Amazon Prime is going to be giving us something before all this happened. Well, what about after all this happened? The only thing I can physically see without, again, being steeped into the lore of the notes and whatnot, is Sam gets the last pages of that book. So I want to know what he's going to put in that book.
Unless he's going to write about his vision of the Fellowship of the Ring. You know, how he felt.
Well, I think the Ring's done.
You
can't make a whole movie about how he feels about it. Right? Can't do that. That's going to be boring. There'll be something new threatening somebody.
Yeah. Maybe it's the Witch King's dead. Maybe one of the Nazguls is now, like, who's the Witch King now, right?
There is none.
That's what I'm saying. Who's going to take his place? So maybe it's, you know, the next villain Nazgul bad guy that's threatening Middle-earth.
All right, everybody, that's all we got. That's going to be it for the night. We thank you very much for joining us. And if you liked what you've seen, please click like and subscribe and leave a comment.
Yep, and thank you for watching.
Thanks very much for coming along for the ride. And hey, see you next week. Later.